Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics with a project that you're going to want to make for a really special meal. We know what that's like in the fall when we have more guests over. It's just, in Idaho, it's cold. We're indoors more, playing board games, watching movies, having meals, not only during the holidays, but it just seems like we have more gatherings. A beautiful meal often starts off with a beautiful setting at the table. And so that's why we developed the Flying Geese placemats. This is one you're going to want to make over and over again. We chose Chickadee Landing by Kansas Troubles. They designed for Moda in these beautiful kind of autumn fall colors that are just so rich. And we're going to show you a really cool technique for making those Flying Geese units. We even have a little pocket here to put some special silverware. So the kit will make 4, including your backing. The only thing you'll need to pick up will be some batting or fusible fleece, whatever you want to put in the middle of your project. I know you're going to want to pick up that Ultimate Flying Geese tool by Creative Grid. I'm going to show you how to use that today. You're going to see there really is no better way to make just beautiful Flying Geese blocks. The points are coming out so precisely with minimal waste. And let's just start right off with, we're going to make this unit here. And before I even forget, I'm going to flip it over just so you're able to see the pressing. Of course, our patterns always talk about pressing, but sometimes it's just easier to see it. So you can see as we did all of our Flying Geese units and we sewed those together, we're pressing those seams open and pretty much everything here is pressing away from the center. So this is what we'll be doing, and of course you're going to be making 4 of those. But let's start off making our Flying Geese section here. It's so much fun. I used to actually be pretty stressed out, to be honest with you, because the traditional way of making Flying Geese really was to start off with a rectangle, and you're having squares in the corners, sew and flip, and there was a lot of waste. And my Flying Geese units were a little bit hit and miss. We've included a technique here inside your pattern that you can use both with or without the Ultimate Flying Geese tool, and you will soon see that using the tool will be the preferred way to go. But I'm going to show you first that you start off with, I'll actually just bring this back here, whatever is your larger, it's your delta, it's your point. That's where you're going to be cutting your larger piece, and you're actually going to be cutting 4 of the same backgrounds. Now let's go right away to our tool, because while we've included this information in your pattern, the information is actually on your tool as well. The size we're going to be going for today of finished Flying Geese, that's very important. I'm emphasizing the finished size is actually 2 by 4. These are 2 inches tall, 4 inches wide, sewn into the project. That means unfinished, they're going to be 2.5 by 4.5. I want to mention that because that has confused people in the past. They're like, wait, my Flying Geese unit unfinished is 2.5 by 4.5. Did I do something wrong? No, you're exactly where you should be, because remember, these are finished measurements. And of course, we know that we're going to be losing a 1/4 inch all the way around as we sew that into the project. So notice as we read across here that our cut one large square of, in this case, our colored fabric, which is our gold, to 5 3/4, and then we're going to cut 4 of our kind of tan tonal to 3 1/4. And that combination of cutting 1 of the large in gold, 4 of the tan equals 4 Flying Geese units, and they're oversized, so we get to trim up. There's 2 trim functions, a trim 1 and a trim 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get us into the configuration of what are we doing with all of this at this point. We have our 1 large square and 2 out of the 4 tan squares, and you're simply placing them in opposite corners per the instructions inside the Creative Grid tool, and it always comes with those instructions. They have you actually just draw a line corner to corner and sew a 1/4 inch on either side. But I think there's an easier way, and it's the way we actually do it in our sewing room upstairs. And I'll show you what that method actually is we use something called a seam guide, because we have figured out, and I bet you figured this out too, it's way more fun and more accurate to sew on a drawn line then have to be able to sew a 1/4 inch parallel to a drawn line. So for that reason, we love to put our seam guide corner to corner, exactly on that diagonal, and we draw. We just draw on that, rotate our mat, and draw our other line. That is a 1/4 inch away from, you can imagine an imaginary line from diagonal to diagonal. Then we simply pin, just as we've done here, pin, 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 and we sew. Notice we clipped that center. Why is that? To reduce some bulk. So once you have everything pinned, let me just show that to you. Don't be worried about that. It doesn't have to be a stressful thing to make that cut. We're just trying to reduce any bulk that might interfere with our ability to get a nice point. Once you have it pinned, I just hold that there, make sure I'm not cutting any of my gold, and I just cut straight across. And I discard that fabric. And they meet in the center. Just reduces bulk. That's all that's happening, so don't overthink that too much. Once you have that sewn directly on those lines, now grab any straight edge that you have and cut corner to corner. Of course, your iron will be all the way to maximum hot at this point, and give a good press and press away. And you'll now have 2 units here that look identical. So thus far, we've used our 1 large gold in 2 of our tan squares. But remember, there's 2 more. And I bet you already know what that's all about, right? We're going to place our 3rd one in this corner, just like this. And again, we used our seam guide, draw, draw, sew, sew. And once again, we simply cut diagonal to diagonal, and you're pressing away. So now we have 2. But remember that we had yet another one, right? We had yet another one to be able to put the other tan square, same step. That's how you end up with 4. You're like, okay, notice this is oversized. And our pattern has you squaring this up to 2.5 by 4.5, because ultimately sewn into the project, this will be 2 by 4 sewn in. The absolute easiest way to do this squaring up is with the Creative Grid tool, but I'm going to show you how to do it without it, so that this is your option whether or not this is the right tool for you. I just happened to grab a 3.5 by 6.5. One of the reasons I really like this tool is, notice that cross hatching right there. That I'm going to lay right there. It's kind of bracketing, and you can see where that cross is right there. I'm going to make the first turn, and I'm going to cut that, because we know that dashed line that is crossing right at that tip, that is where our 1/4 inch seam allowance will pass. So this is going to be our first cut. Remember how I said that this is going to be 2.5 by 4.5. So the next cut I would do, if I were going to take this approach, which I would not take this approach, I would use the Creative Grid, but if you're going to take this approach, the next cut I would make would be to turn this ruler around with the 2.5 toward your belly, and I'm running that ruler right across the top. And I'm going to make a cut. I'm going to scoot that down just a bit and make a cut. So now what do we know? We know that right now, top to bottom, this has been trimmed top to bottom. But what about laterally? 4.5 inches divided by 2 is 2.25. That's not a very comfortable measurement, but we can get there. So this is 1, 2, and right there is my 1/4. What I would do is line that up as best that I can, trying to visualize that 2.25, really hitting right across that, lining up with the bottom. That error factor I'm talking about is right here. This is when this comes into play. So I'm doing my best to line up the 2.25 to hit right through the center and trimming right about there, I think. Now, we said 4.5, so you've got a couple options here. You could come down to 4.5, which could be right there, and trim it this way, and I've got another line assisting me. Is this doable? Yes. Is this uncomfortable? Yes. And is this the preferred approach? No, but it does work. And then we'll go ahead and repress that. Again, a little uncomfortable. You need to keep track of where you are and what you're doing, but it is functional. Now, let's get another block that has not been trimmed, and let's show you how the Ultimate Flying Geese is different, and it takes the guesswork out of this equation entirely. I'm just going to repress the block. Let's go back and revisit that tool one more time. Letter D was our 2x4, and up to now we haven't really talked about letter D. What is that business all about? It's actually about the trim 1 and trim 2 functions, because it tells us which of these letters are we going to line up with, and then for us, because we know we're going for the 2x4 finished, which happens to be letter D per our instructions on our tool, we're going to trim using trim 1 and 2 using letter D both times. So let's bring out our oversized Flying Geese unit. We are going to use the dashed lines associated with letter D, and of course we're going to use our trim 1 function first. Your job is to put the dashed line in that beautiful Flying Geese unit, that beautiful triangle, noticing it exposes two sides at one time, the right side and the top. Make a trim, rotate your mat. This works beautifully with a spinning mat because you don't have to move anything. Notice when I was squaring up before, I was moving the block all over the place to find the right position to try to make the right cut. I'm not going to disturb this block not one time until it's completely trimmed up. Give the mat one more rotation clockwise, which will now put trim 2 in our upper right. And once again, we're going to slide down to letter D. Notice now that we have our dashed lines for our beautiful triangle, but we also have a dashed line here and a dashed line here, exposing the right side and the top, and even this diagonal line going right along our seam. We literally have 5 things showing us that we're in the right location. And then we'll make our final trim. Now I, with absolute confidence and a lot less kind of anxiety, have a perfectly trimmed up Flying Geese unit. And again, with minimal waste. I just love that. So because we're going to be making 4 Flying Geese placemats, you will have one of each of these colors for each of the 4 placemats. Then it's just a matter of sewing those together. And we've sewn some of them together so far. So I'll give you some pointers on that. And I would definitely sew from, while it may be tempting to sew from the side that has no seams, let me show you why you actually want to sew from this side. There's that cross right there. And why that is so awesome to be able to look at is that is where you want the needle to pass through, or just to the right of that, ever so slightly, to compensate for the width of the thread and of the fabric as we press. So let's pin corner to corner. I have my seam guide on my machine because I want to make sure that I am being true to that 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I'm not clipping my points. After all this work, we absolutely do not want to clip our points. I'm going to get the iron heating up, and let's go sew our 1/4 inch seam. Okay, let's see how we did. Notice we pressed the seam open to distribute that bulk evenly. There we go. could use a clapper. Again, I recently have really discovered a clapper. For decades, I never sewed with a clapper. The weight on these warm seams and letting them dry like that has made an incredible difference in how well and flat my blocks are coming out. So now you can see that we have a beautiful piece Flying Geese unit. And remember that one of the things we really thought was lovely and kind of added some glamour to our placemats was having a nice place to store our silverware, right? So it's already at the table. Well, how we did that is actually pretty straightforward. You'll have your background strip here as well as your pocket. You'll simply fold that in half and press. It's nice and crisp. And then placing that here, pin, and we just sewed with an 1/8 of an inch. So got to get 1/4 of an inch out of your head right now, because of course later sewing the sections together we'll be using a 1/4 inch. We're using an 1/8 of an inch baste that we're just sewing all the way down here, stop in the corner, turn and turn. So we create that and we kind of lock that in. Was one last thing to deal with. So once we have that, and I'm just going to bring this whole thing out so you can kind of see really the sections now. It's about precise cutting, as always, right? I would say some of my earlier projects really kind of went wrong with my initial cutting. So making sure that everything is cut precisely, everything is positioned precisely, and this is exactly what we do, by the way. When we get projects together upstairs in our sewing room, we get everything cut and get everything laid out and kind of do that reasonableness check. Does this look right before we start sewing? So this is just a little piece of a kind of a foam core that we got from Michael's and covered it with a piece of flannel with tape on the back. So it makes for a really great little project kind of just table that's easy to move from our cutting area to our sewing machine. So that's all we have here. So these are all the things, and of course you're just going to begin assembly per the instructions, of course. And as we look at that, the assembly is easy peasy, right? We've got this section, we have our sashing in between, and of course we have our middle section, and all of our pressing will be included. And then we put our outer border on. We actually put our batting and our backing on, and then we did our quilting. So you could see that it was beautifully quilted, really giving it an embossed look and just quilting it all the way through. We chose a monopoly because there were so many colors in here, and you can see we just really carefully stitched in the ditch here all the way around the project. So that's a nice way to get the project finished, and of course then you're off to some binding. So if you are looking for a way to dress up your table for a very, very special meal, we really think the Flying Geese placemats could add a special touch for this fall season and really beyond, right? I think this will look beautiful in a variety of fabrics, but it's extra special in these beautiful fall colors from Chickadee Landing. Hey, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do that right now and hit that bell. That way, when new videos are released, you get a notice that, hey, Shabby Fabrics has put out something that you don't want to miss out. Thanks for giving me part of your day today to show you how to make these placemats, how to use the Ultimate Flying Geese tool, and so much more. I'll see you soon.